ready. There's the camera. Nothing yet.
All good? Thank you very much. Thanks for coming.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment for Friday, July the 12th, 2019. My name is Michael Ferguson, and I will chair this meeting, and I hereby call the meeting to order. Please be advised the Committee of Adjustment meetings are now being recorded, streamed, and stored online, similar to the Council and Committee of the Whole meetings. For members of the committee, please ensure your microphones are on before speaking, and for members of the public, if you're going to address the committee, please take a seat at the table when addressing the committee, as opposed to speaking from your seat in the gallery. As well, please ensure your microphone is turned on. Without speaking into the microphones, the recordings will be difficult to hear, and this will also be an opportune time to mute or turn off any electronic devices. Thank you. The camera on the back wall is also equipped with a microphone capable of picking up conversations within the gallery. So please refrain from such conversations, and if you need to speak with someone else in the gallery, please move outside the council chambers. Thank you. This morning there is a public meeting scheduled for 2 consent applications and 4 minor variance applications. I will briefly summarize the procedure to be outlined for the meeting. First, the Secretary-Treasurer will advise the committee as to when, how, and to whom notice of each of the hearings was circulated for the applications being considered. Next, each of the applications will be considered separately. Planning staff will advise the purpose and effect of the applications and provide any other relevant information. The Secretary-Treasurer will summarize any correspondence on file, and from there, the applicant will make a brief presentation if they so choose. Finally, the public will have the opportunity to speak to the applications being considered. Once this procedure is complete, we will close the public portion of the meeting, and the committee will then deliberate on the proposed applications and consider a motion to pass, defeat, or defer the decision for these applications. The applications being considered this morning are B1905 for 46 Potato Island Road, B1906 for 6 and 10 Island 2360 Georgian Bay. Number 3 will be A19-22 for 68 Sunset Lane. Number 4 will be A1923 for 130 Prisk Road. Number 5 will be A1924 for 818 Haskets Drive. And finally, A1926 for 16 Island 3230 Georgian Bay. Before we begin, I will ask the committee if there are any declarations of pecuniary interest. And I see there are none. So the first application will be 46 Potato Island Road. Do you want to read the declarations? Yep.
Notice of each of the applications was sent by first-class mail to the respective owners and assessed persons within 120 meters, 500 meters, or 800 meters, and to those persons and agencies likely to have an interest in the application. The notices were sent at least 20 days prior to this morning's meeting. Included in each notice was an explanation of the purpose and the effect of the application and a key map showing the location of the property. Other relevant information may also have been provided. These circulations were provided in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act 1990.
Thank you, Lauren. Okay, to our first application, B1905 for 46 Potato Island Road, to the Planning Department.
Good morning. So the first consent application today is for Wilma Sale, and the application is to facilitate a lot addition to convey a portion of land to the adjoining property located at 93 Potato Island Road. Just to give you an idea of where the property is, as you can see, it is on the screen here in black. This is 46 Potato Island Road, and this portion here just south of it is 93 Potato Island Road. Just to give you an aerial view of the subject lands, and I do have a severance sketch coming up, but just to let you know, so there is this existing right-of-way that Wilma Sale, the owner of the retained lands, currently uses to access her property. And this is 93 Potato Island Road here. So the portion that they're conveying is this portion that's within the right-of-way that directly abuts to the neighboring property at 93 Potato Island Road. So the zoning of the subject lands, the retained lands, which is shown on the screen in red, is Shoreline Residential Island Type 2, Exception 47, and this exception restricts no boathouses on the southeast shoreline and only allows one dock on the subject lands. The severed and benefiting lands are zoned Shoreline Residential Island Type 2, Exception 48, and this restriction is for one dock only. And both properties are surrounded by an environmentally protected, provincially significant wetland. So here's the severance sketch on the screen. So both lots require a minimum lot area of 10,000 square meters, or 2.5 acres, or 1 hectare, and a minimum lot frontage of 120 meters. So both lots comply pre and post severance. So the original lot, which is shown on here in green and includes this red portion. So that is all of 46 Potato Island Road, and the original frontage currently is 295 meters with an area of 9.9 hectares or 24.5 acres. The severed portion, which is outlined on the screen here in red, and it does go up here along the right side of that right-of-way, has a frontage of 130 meters and an area of 1.7 hectares or 4.3 acres. The benefiting lands, which is shown here in blue, has a frontage of 120 meters currently, and it is 2.2 hectares in size, which is 5.5 acres. So the benefiting resultant lot, which is the benefiting plus the severed lot, so the blue and red portion as shown on the screen, will have a frontage of 250 meters and an area of 4 hectares, which is 9.8 acres. And the retained land, which is the green portion, which is post-severance, will have a lot frontage of 420 meters and an area of 8.2 hectares or 20.2 acres. So you may be wondering why the lot frontage is increasing, and it's because the way that we measure lot frontage is creating an increased lot frontage for the retained lands. So on the screen, this is the severed land, so it's currently just bush. And here's another portion of that severed land. The retained land, so this is the 46 Potato Island Road, and another view of it. And this is the benefiting land, so the 2 cabins. Severed land, so as you can see, is just vast vegetation. And the benefiting lands. And another view of the benefiting lands. The benefiting lands as well. So just a little bit of background. The existing garage on 93 Potato Island Road, which is the benefiting lands, was converted into a dwelling by the previous owner. The previous owner was sent a summons as they were in contravention of the Planning Act because they already had 2 pre-existing cottages that were legal non-conforming, and they were ordered to convert the dwelling back into a garage as per the originally approved building permit. The property was then sold and to the current owner that owns the property right now, and the garage remains as a dwelling. So as a condition of consent, the garage, which is a dwelling right now, is to be converted back into a garage as per the originally approved plans from 2010. Just to give you a little bit of background on that. The Township and District Official Plan do permit lot additions. No EIS was required as it was just for a lot addition and no development of any buildings or structures was proposed, so an EIS was not required with the application. The lots meet the minimum lot area and lot frontage of the zoning bylaw, and they'll maintain the previous zoning that was implemented on them with those exceptions in order to maintain those existing conditions. So staff recommends approval of the application subject to the recommendations that are outlined in the report. And I'm available if you have any questions for myself.
Thank you, Dana. Did we receive any correspondence relative to this application?
The District of Muskoka has no objections.
Thank you, Lauren. Is the applicant present today? Are there any comments that you would like to make in addition to those of the planner? None? Very well, thank you. Is there anyone here from the public that would like to speak to this application? Sir, would you like to come up to the microphone, and would you please state your name for the record?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and committee. Thank you for your time. My name is Dave Baldwin. I'm here on behalf of myself and my wife, Helen Baldwin. We reside at 40 Potato Island Road. We don't necessarily have an objection at this time, but we do have concerns regarding safety on the municipally owned road that encompasses 26, 34, and 40 Potato Island Road, that conveys traffic to the private road that gains access to the island itself. Currently, the municipally owned road is unassumed and not deemed as a private road. In previous years, as the island continues to be severed and has multiple dwellings on the island, there's far more traffic than was ever anticipated, in our opinion. And again, this is our personal opinion. We have noticed, as new residents to the location, the increased amount of traffic, the erratic driving, and the lack of speed limit on this road. There are no posted signs, again, on the municipal unassumed portion of Potato Island Road. We would ask the committee to possibly look into increasing safety on the municipally owned portion. Again, with the increased traffic, we believe it's become an issue. I was hoping that was something the committee could look into, possibly the Works Department, posting speed limit signs if possible. We understand that anywhere in a non-posted speed limit area, that it would be 50 kilometers an hour. And in our personal opinion, that is excessive speed in this area. And that is our concern at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Baldwin. Unfortunately, the concerns you have outlined are not within the bailiwick of the Committee of Adjustment.
Yes.
And what you should be doing is contacting the Public Works Department directly of the township to outline your concerns and see what they can offer to do to alleviate the situation.
It was basically pertaining to the possibility of additional dwellings on the island and the additional people that occupy the island, which would increase the amount of traffic on the road. So that is pertaining somewhat to the severed land that would be benefiting a current 46 Potato Island Road.
Okay, once again, I certainly...
Just wanted to have that stated on the record.
Fine.
And
absolutely.
at the same time, about the road itself, just to have it stated on the record about concerns that we would have to convey to the works, about liability of people that do drive on this road. We have contacted works and have not received really a direct answer on liability, because we do not own the road, but the municipality does. So we'll follow up with the works.
Thank you very much. That's absolutely the course of action you should follow.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate your comments. Sir.
Yeah, my name's Jeffrey Sale. I'm Mona Sale's husband. We live on 46 Potato Island Road. And microphone.
Yellow button. There you are. The light's
Thank you. Sorry, I'll repeat myself. My name's Jeffrey Sale. I'm Mona Sale's husband. I live on 46 Potato Island Road full time. And I've not met our new neighbor, Dave, so I haven't had a chance to have a conversation with him. If there is any concerns, which he's just brought up, which is wonderful, myself and also our neighbor Jack Whiskey and our other neighbor Tom would be more than happy to sit down and address these concerns, and we'd be more than happy to put up, street signs. We already have some signs there. that indicate that it is private property, access right away for the residents of Potato Island Road only and guests. And we'd be more than happy to put up some road signs for speed limits or whatever's necessary, and be more than happy to sit down and have a conversation with our new neighbor.
Fantastic. I love this air of cooperation. If there's a problem, you want to solve it. So thank you very much. And I'm sure that, if you all get together with Public Works, there can be a satisfactory resolution. So thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address this application? Seeing there are none, I now close the public portion of the meeting, and the application will come before the committee for any comments or thoughts. Committee, anybody have anything they want to add? Member Cooper.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of questions. About the structure that's essentially a garage with some living quarters, is there something specific that you're planning to do to ensure that it's converted to storage? I.e., I'm assuming there are washroom facilities and kitchens and so on in this residence garage. So what will be done to ensure that it's converted back to storage? Thank you. One question first.
Sure. Through you, Chair Ferguson. So we will look at the originally approved plans, and they want to convert it back to that, and then staff will do site inspections to make sure all of the cooking facilities are removed, any sleeping facilities. You can have a bathroom in a detached garage, so that would be able to remain, but everything else for living fixtures would need to be removed, and staff would do a site visit.
Thank you.
And
Just a
follow-up?
follow-up question, a second question. I noted there's a comment about allowing one dock in the area, but I also see in here that these are critical PSW lands. Is that correct? And if so, how do we put a dock in critical PSW lands?
Through you, Chair Ferguson. So the dock restrictions were placed when they did a previous rezoning back in 2009, I believe. So they would have to go in the location that they were approved at that time. Not sure whether or not there was docking facilities there. The owner may be able to speak better to that.
So going to the next thing, I notice on both these properties there are a number of building permits or permits on record. Have any of them been acted upon, and if they have, so be it, but why this record is so there's something here that says, for example, a sleeping cabin from 2002, a storage building from 2002. Were those buildings built?
Through you, Chair Ferguson, I believe they were.
Oh, so you're just showing...
Yeah, we just list the records of all permits that have been taken out on the property.
So all these buildings have been built, is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Member Cooper. Do any other committee members have any comments? Member Bochuk.
Thank you, Chair Ferguson. To the residents, I'd like to hear what you're saying about getting together and talking about mediating traffic and signage and that. And know that as your counselor for that area, that if you have any queries or concerns, you can reach me, and I'll be more than happy to sit with you. And I also have a portfolio of operations, so that way we can talk to our operations department as well too. Thank you. Just a comment.
Thank you, Member Bochuk. Anything else, committee members? Seeing there are none, I will proceed to read the motion. Be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment approves consent application number B19-05 to facilitate a lot addition by conveying a portion of land to the adjoining property, 93 Potato Island Road, for 46 Potato Island Road, subject to the following. Number one, The deeds for the severed lot are submitted to the Secretary Treasurer along with a registered copy of the survey plan. Number 2, that a complete set of digital drawing files for the reference plan shall be provided to the Township of Georgian Bay. And finally, number 3, that the detached garage that has been converted into a dwelling be converted back into a detached garage as per its approved building permit number 10-468. That completes it. All those in favor of the application? That would be a unanimous consent. It is approved. Thank you very much. Moving forward, our next application is number B1906 for 6 and 10 Island 2360 Georgian Bay. To the Planning Department, Victoria.
So our next consent application was submitted by John and Gail Harold for lands located at 6 and 10 Island 2360, which is located within the Cognoscine coastal waterfront community. So the purpose of this application is to facilitate a lot boundary adjustment to alter the existing lot configurations of these properties for the purpose of increasing the building and septic envelopes for the northern lot, which is 10 Island 2360. And just a note, no additional lot is being created through this application, just an adjustment to existing boundaries. So here are the properties on the screen. So they are located on Ava Island in Cognoscine. So the current official plan designation that applies is residential waterfront within the Cognoscine community. And the current zoning is shoreline residential island type 5, exception 12. So here we have an aerial photo of the properties and the current lot configuration that exists. So this southern lot here, which is 6 Island 2360, is currently developed with a single detached dwelling and some accessory structures, where the northern portion, 10 Island 2360, is currently vacant, and that is the lot that they are anticipating future development, and that's why this application is before you. So the northern lot was created in 1986, and therefore is an existing lot of record with development rights per our official plan. So here is the proposed site plan, which shows the existing lot line in bold here, and then the dotted line is the proposed new lot line through this application. So again, this is just to allow for a better building and septic envelope on the northern lot, given some existing topographical constraints, as well as the southern lot further from the ownership of the applicants. The existing dwelling is located approximately here, so the proposed potential footprint, they've tried to locate it in a way that would not impede the view of the further southern lot as well. So there's a few different factors that they've taken into consideration. And just to note as well, so on the northern portion, there are 2 portions above the 177.4 contour. So the portion to the north here and the portion to the south. And so for all planning purposes, we have just indicated the lot area being that southern portion. So it does not include both separate areas, it's just the one main area. So here are some photographs of the property. So this is the existing dock system for the south lot on the east side of the property. And here's the existing cottage on that south lot. And so here we're looking from the developed property towards the shoreline of the vacant property. So the developed area would be beyond the existing vegetation here. So this is that dwelling that I was speaking of, which is further beyond the ownership of the applicant, that they were taking into consideration their views of the bay when they started to look into their proposed building envelope, which triggered this application. And here is a shot of the shoreline to the west. And again, so this, all this location here is that vacant lot. And here's a shot from the approximate front wall of the proposed dwelling area. Again, there is no concrete design plans yet. This is just a matter of adjusting the boundary to allow them to get a better building envelope. And here's a view looking towards the remainder of the northern portion of the lot. And again, just that northern portion where the contour does change. This is a bit blurry, but this just shows the deck connection between the portion to the north that is above the 177.4 and then the portion down here to the south that is the 177.4. And again, we are not including that northern portion in regards to lot area and things like that. So the applicants are here if you have any questions, or for myself.
Okay, thank you, Victoria. Was there any correspondence received for this file?
The District of Muskoka had no objections.
Thank you, Lauren. Is the applicant present? Would you like to make some comments, sir? Please step up to the chair, turn on the microphone, and I'd like you to state your name for the records.
My name is John Harold, and I am the owner of the north lot. My wife Gail, who is here, is the registered owner of the south lot. Just to indicate, we have spoken to our neighbors on the island and also to the north and also on Kindersley Island, and none of those neighbors have expressed any objections to this lot line adjustment that we're looking for.
Thank you. And
I don't have anything else to add to what Victoria has indicated unless she has some questions.
thank you very much. Are there any members of the public that would like to address this application? I see there are none. Therefore, I hereby close the public portion of the meeting, and the application will now come before the committee for any thoughts or questions. Member Cooper.
I hope it's not 20 questions, but anyway, just a couple. First of all, just for my understanding, and I'm not objecting to this in particular, I just want to understand, Victoria, very good report, but are there not any other sites on the existing northern lot where there could be a septic system put in and a building envelope?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I did visit the site, and the proposed areas that they have indicated are definitely the most appropriate, especially given the terrain is quite rocky, as I'm sure a few of you are aware of, and also them really taking into consideration that further southern neighbor and their views really takes this application to where it is. So I don't feel that there would be any more appropriate locations for that, in my opinion.
Thank you. And I have not seen the site. I got the report on Tuesday. I've been kind of busy. But I wanted to also understand in terms of lot coverage, what is transpiring here? In other words, have you made some calculations, and can you tell me what those are in terms of what this means? In other words, in the existing lot that has a building on it, there would be X amount of lot coverage, but with the reduction of the land area, where does it take us? Secondly, I'd like to know how that applies to the second lot as well, just to give me an overview of what we're looking at here. Thanks, Victoria.
Sure. So through you, Mr. Chair. So this application, I apologize, I didn't mention this before. A condition of this approval is they will have to go through a rezoning process to rezone both of the properties to a site-specific zoning to recognize lot area, lot frontage, and there may be other additional provisions, because at this point for the north lot, there is no concrete building plans that have been provided yet for planning to know exactly lot coverage and so on and so forth. So the existing zoning for both properties allows for all existing lot area and lot frontage, and the north lot that is developed does currently meet all the zoning requirements. So once the boundary is adjusted here, there may be the requirement for that southern lot to have lot coverage recognized, but again, that is going to go through another public process in front of council for rezoning.
So this will be back to council.
Yes.
So that we can get that information.
Exactly, yes, because at this time we just don't have building plans yet to evaluate.
But in reality, we can still calculate, though, that I think the zoning bylaws say there's 5% lot coverage in the Cognizine area, is that not correct?
Yes, through your chair, that is correct. And I do believe, I don't have an exact number in front of me, but when I first originally calculated it, the southern lot, I believe they do meet that number. If not, it's slightly over with the change, but again, that's something that we'll evaluate through the zoning process, so it will come back in front of you for that.
And I appreciate that you're explaining it's going to council. It
Yep.
really does help me, though, to make a
understand.
decision
Yep.
when we have something like this, because if it's coming in close to the 5%,
Oh,
I think
sorry.
that's helpful.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, it is here on the survey. I apologize. So they would be at 4.1% after the change,
And that's the existing lot.
the existing lot, correct?
And I guess we don't know what they're building, but on the new lot, it's, if I remember correctly, it's about 1.25 acres or something like that. Is that correct? I know I'm using imperial, but
That's okay. So the proposed lot area for the north lot would be 0.59 hectares, so about 6,000 square meters.
so it's about 6,000 square meters, so 60. So it's about 1.5 acres.
It's just over an, yeah.
1.5 acres.
Yes.
So if it's 1.5 acres, so 65% of that, so they'd be allowed about 3,000 square feet in total, I'm gathering, just sort of ballparking here.
Yeah, and through you, Mr. Chair, there has been a lot of pre-consultation with the applicant and their family about this, and the envelopes that have been shown on the survey are intended to meet that lot coverage, so they're gonna do their best to meet that.
I'm sure of that. I just wanted to get my sort of picture around it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments among the committee? If there are none, I will read the motion. Be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment approves consent application B19-06 to facilitate a lot boundary adjustment of 6 and 10 Island 2360 Georgian Bay, subject to the following. Number 1, that deeds for the lot addition are submitted to the Secretary Treasurer along with a registered copy of the survey plan. Number 2, that the lands subject to this approval, 6 and 10 Island 2360, be rezoned to a site-specific zone to recognize the lot area and frontages and any other applicable provisions. And number 3, that a complete set of digital drawing files of the reference plan shall be provided to the Township of Georgian Bay. I call the vote. All those in favor? And there's no one opposed. Again, that's a unanimous decision. You're approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.
You're very welcome. Okay, moving along, our next application is number A19-22 for 68 Sunset Lane. To the Planning Department.
So our next minor variance application has been submitted by Stephen McLeod, located at 68 Sunset Lane. And the application intends to permit an addition to an existing dwelling pursuant to the Shoreline Residential Type 1 zone with a minimum front yard setback of 8.5 meters, which is existing, whereas 20 meters is required. A minimum front yard setback to a deck of 5.5 meters, where 16 meters is required, and a maximum dwelling width of 23.2 meters, where 14.6 meters is permitted. So here we have a location map showing the property here along the south shore of Macy's Bay. So within the official plan, this property is designated waterfront, and the zoning is Shoreline Residential Type 1 SR1. So a fish impact assessment study was submitted in support of this application, which included construction mitigation measures, which are proposed to be included in the site plan control agreement that is listed as a condition to approval. So here we have some aerial photography of the property. As you can see here, the extent of the property is outlined in red with Sunset Lane going through the center part of the property. So existing structures are a single detached dwelling, a detached garage, a metal shelter, and a gazebo structure. The existing coverage on the property is 2.3%, and the proposed through this application would be 3.8%. So here we have the full extent of the site plan. And then here we have the zoomed in version of more of the developed area. So here you can see the existing dwelling located here, the proposed addition here to the east of the existing structure, and a proposed deck along the front. So a few items what triggered this application. As you can see here, there is an existing hydro line which did not allow for any expansion towards the back, which would have been permitted through the zoning. So that is why the addition has been proposed to the side of the structure. So again, the total dwelling width that's being proposed is 28.4% of the total lot frontage. And again, the max coverage being proposed here is 3.8%, which is well within the permitted lot coverage for the current zoning. So here we have a few pictures. This is from the driveway, the detached garage you can see to the right of the photo, the existing dwelling, and here is approximately the location of the proposed addition where two temporary structures currently are located. This is looking towards the rear of the property. And here is looking from the shore towards where the proposed addition would be on the dwelling. So again, this is where the addition would be located. Here's the existing shoreline. So this area here is that pinch point of that 8.5 meters for the front yard, which is being proposed as part of the application. However, it is already existing, so we would just be recognizing that 8.5 meter setback. Some more photos of the shoreline, the existing gazebo to the left of the existing dwelling. And again, this just shows the extent of the large side yard that does exist between the property development and the adjacent lot. Again, another photo of the shoreline. So the staff do feel that the application does meet the 4 tests of the Planning Act for minor variance and do support the approval of this application subject to the conditions that are outlined in report, including that site plan agreement to ensure the construction mitigation measures are included from the fish habitat assessment. So I don't believe the applicant is here. Oh yes, there they are. The applicant is here if you have any questions for them or myself.
Thank you very much. Any correspondence with regard to this file?
No correspondence was received.
Thank you. I see the applicant is here. Are there any comments you wish to make in addition to those of the planning department? Nothing?
No, she did a good job.
Thank you very much. Are there any members of the public that would like to address this application? And I see there are none. Therefore, I hereby close the public portion of the meeting, and the application will now come before the committee for their questions or thoughts. Member Demick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I visited the site and actually met with the applicant. It's really well marked out. It's nice to go to a place that has the permit. The layout was laid out very well. And the hydro line is absolutely the concern there. So I wouldn't see any problems there. It's a pretty open area, but when I looked across the bay or the area to the other side, every place is pretty open. There's not much that you would want for more vegetation, anything like that. So it was a pleasure to go there and see a site that was well done. So I certainly would approve this.
Thank you. Member Bochuk.
Thank you, Chair. The question is in relationship to the application is for a proposed garage and mudroom to be added to the existing dwelling. Do we have any information on the existing garage that is on the property now?
Through you, Mr. Chair, sorry, in the sense of area or?
Yes.
I can.
Because essentially what we're doing is we're allowing 2 garages here, which I'm not sure there's a bylaw withstanding on that. But if we had, with no information on the current garage, we don't know if there's living quarters above it or what the existing garage is. So my question is, what is currently there?
So through you, Mr. Chair, the existing area of the detached garage that you saw in the photos is 111.8 square meters, so just under the 112 square meter maximum. When I visited the site, it did not appear to have any type of living quarters within it. It is purely used for storage. When it comes to the proposed addition, it is noted as a garage and mudroom. Whether the portion of that is going to be sheerly for garage or some of it mudroom, in essence, for planning, we just look at it as one whole structure. The applicant may have more information of what exactly they plan on doing with it, but again, our analysis is it's just expanding the dwelling as is. But if you have any specific questions, they may be able to answer that.
My concern is basically that our planning department has looked through the bylaws, and you have no concerns with there being two garages on the same property.
Through you, Mr. Chair, there's no restriction within the bylaw that says that they cannot. So.
Okay, I'm fine with that, thank you.
Member Cooper.
Yeah, I had a very similar question about two garages. So I guess if you could just explain to me, Victoria, and thanks for the report, it looks very good. There are some places where we only allow one garage. I'm pretty sure 6 Mile Lake is an example where we have that. So could you explain to me, in this particular area, you can have 2, 3, 5, how many garages?
So through you, Mr. Chair, this area is not within a specific community plan, and it is those other community plans that do have further restrictions on potentially the amount of detached garages, for instance. In this property here, as long as they maintain the lot coverage, whether the attached or detached structures, let's say they put another garage, if it meets lot coverage, there's nothing in the plan for this particular property that says that they cannot do that.
So it's essentially that sort of overarching Township of Georgian Bay zoning bylaws and so forth that govern this particular area, is that?
That is correct, yes.
Thank you. Yeah, so I just wanted to understand that, and I think otherwise, could you explain to me, there's two sort of lines that I'm following here. One is close to the, looks like the shoreline, which is the 177.4, and then there's another line that sort of looks similar, but it's further inland. What is that line?
This line here, is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
So that is the extent of the original shore road allowance that was there. So it was just indicated on the survey.
Okay, and so finally, and this is, you know, certainly not going to stop me from voting in favor of this, but I will note that we may at some point have to start taking a look at the 177.4 high water mark as the water levels are continuing to rise. And so it's something that we need to be mindful at the Township of Georgian Bay that a lot of land is disappearing and things are getting flooded. So I caution everybody to think about that. Thank you.
Member Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Victoria, and just on the front yard setback, 5.5 meters, there is sort of a, I'll say, a patio there now, and it looks like they are going to put essentially a second story deck out. So does that patio, is it going to go beyond the patio, and are you taking the measurement from that existing patio is, I guess, my question.
Through you, Mr. Chair, what was provided on the survey for the proposed deck is what the measurement was from. Whether that is the extent of the patio, the applicant is nodding yes. If he wanted to further comment on that.
No, that's fine. I was at the site and I was trying to visualize, and it looked like it would be pretty much that way. So I guess a secondary question to that, as a second story deck, does that add to the lot coverage versus just a ground floor patio?
Right, so through you, Mr. Chair, you are correct. Any deck that's above that 4 foot in height, and it has been included in that 3.8% calculation that I provided you.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Just a quick question, Victoria. Go back to the pictures that's showing
Sure.
the potential site plan. So, no,
Oh, the site.
that's
plan?
part of it. There. So, these temporary structures are both going to be removed?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, so it'll be,
Yeah, it'll be all cleaned up, yeah.
thank you for that clarification. Councillor Cooper.
This may also be a question that relates only to where there are community plans, but I do know in many of the community plans, it says that you can have X amount in the front yard setback. Is there any percentage of lot coverage governing our overarching Township of Georgian Bay zoning bylaws that deal with the amount of coverage in front yard setback?
So through you, Mr. Chair, there is an overlying 5% in the official plan that speaks to shoreline structures. In this case, because of where the dwelling is located, the only structure that is in their front yard is that gazebo and the dock. Does that make sense?
So I'm sorry, so the front yard is only, what,
The
5
front-
meters?
The front yard, in this property's case, would be considered from the front wall of the dwelling towards the water.
Oh, so it's not a dimension from the high water mark that we see some other places?
Exactly.
That's what I was
That,
trying
yeah,
to
yeah,
get at.
exactly.
Okay, so there's no governing?
No.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If there are none, I will proceed to read the motion. Be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment approves minor variance application A19-22 for 68 Sunset Lane to permit an addition to an existing dwelling, a minimum front yard setback to a dwelling of 8.5 meters, a minimum front yard setback to a deck of 5.5 meters, and a maximum dwelling width of 23.2 meters, subject to the following. That approval of this variance is granted and fixed to the subject site plan, extent, location, scale, and use contemplated in the application. That a site plan control approval application be submitted and approved, and that a site plan agreement be executed detailing the proposed development, mitigation measures outlined in the Fisheries Impact Assessment Report by A. Smith Environmental, May 2019, existing vegetation protection areas, and additional plantings in the front yard in the manner prescribed by the applicable policies of the Township of Georgian Bay official plan as they relate to the administration of site plan control. And the final condition, that approval of this variance expires 3 years from the date of decision if building permits have not been issued for the approved structure. I will call the question. All those in favor? Once again, that's approved. Our next application is number A19-23 for 130 Prisk Road to the Planning Department. Victoria, you're a busy girl this morning.
Yes. So our next application was submitted by Flow Drawings and Design on behalf of Danny Coswell. So the application requests to permit the development of a detached garage of 26 square meters pursuant to the Shoreline Residential Type 1 zone with a minimum front yard setback of 30 meters where 40 meters is required, a minimum separation distance of an accessory building to a dwelling of 1.8 meters where 5 meters is required, and a maximum lot coverage of 7.9% where 7% is permitted. And again, that is just recognizing the existing lot coverage. So here's a location map of the property. It is located along the south portion of Prisk Road. In the official plan, the property is designated residential within the Honey Harbor Coastal Waterfront Community and is currently zoned Shoreline Residential Island Type 1. So here is an aerial photograph of the property. Existing structures include a single detached dwelling, a garage structure and metal shed, and a boathouse. So here is a site plan of the property indicating what is being proposed. So as you can see here in red, there is the proposed detached garage of 26 square meters. In that area, there is currently a garage type of storage structure as well as a metal shed that will be removed, and this would be replacing those. And again, the lot coverage that is being proposed is the same as what is existing. It's just a matter of changing from 2 storage structures to 1. And again, the distance from dwelling that is being asked for a variance is 1.8 meters. However, right now it is 0.9 meters away, so they are increasing that distance from what exists. So here's some photos of the property. This is looking from the front yard area to the main dwelling and the driveway. So here is a photo of that existing garage type of structure that is being used for garage type of storage from the applicant right now. And as you can see, its proximity to the main dwelling. And here is that metal shed, again, that would be removed in the construction for the new garage. So here is showing the existing distance from that garage type of structure to the dwelling, and that is proposed to be increased through this application. Another shot of the proposed dwelling. As you can see here, those existing storage structures to the rear are not visible from any point really within the front yard setback. Here is a shot of the existing shoreline of the property and the docking facility. And this is a shot from the front yard water area towards the dwelling. And as you can see, the proposed garage structure would not be visible from the water. So given the number of structures on the property being decreased through this application, as well as no visual impact from the water anticipated, and no change in lot coverage, staff are in the opinion that the proposed application does meet the 4 tests of a minor variance in the Planning Act and do support approval, again, including the conditions as outlined in the report. If you have any questions for myself. And Troy here is available for any questions on behalf of the applicant.
Did we receive any correspondence with regard to this file?
No correspondence was received.
Thank you, Lauren. The applicant is present or agent? Are there any comments that you would like to make in addition to those of the planning department?
Just that I think Victoria did
Oh, you should step up to the microphone
Sure.
and state your name for the file. Yeah.
My name is Troy Wolf. I think Victoria did a great job representing the project. We're just trying to clean up the property and make the 2 buildings that are kind of dilapidated and falling down into one nicer garage to suit the customer's needs. That's about it.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public that would like to address this application? And I see there are none, therefore I will close the public portion of the meeting and the application will come before the committee for any thoughts or comments. Councillor Bochek.
Thank you for the report, Victoria. A couple questions to do with the planning. On this site, would the applicant be allowed to have a fully detached garage?
So through you, Mr. Chair, that's what they're proposing now, is to have that fully detached garage, so it won't be attached to the house at all.
But it's detached.
It is detached, yes,
It is
that is
detached.
correct, yes.
And my question is, would they be permitted to have an attached garage on this house?
Through you, Mr. Chair, if they decided to attach it, as long as it met lot coverage, and again, and any type of dwelling maximum restrictions, they would be able to,
Okay,
depending on that.
my concern was that, reducing to 1.8 meters really doesn't come into effect then because they'll be allowed to have it touching the house
Through you, Mr. Chair, that
as
is
an
correct.
attached garage. So that's really redundant, that small walking area between there, because they'd be allowed to have it if it was joined right too, so.
And through you, Mr. Chair, and it is going to be doubled, because right now it is 0.9 meters, and they are increasing it to 1.8. So there is going to be a bit more room given, which is a positive from the planning department's point of view.
Okay, and my second question to that, the front yard setback, the minimum front yard setback is 30 meters, or I'm sorry, is going to be 30 meters where 40 meters is required?
So through you, Mr. Chair, the absolute minimum, or yes, minimum required being proposed is 30. It's actually, when we were on site and I was there and I came out with my tape measure as well, it is going to be beyond 30, but however, again, given water levels and things like that, we decided that it would be best to propose it at that 30 meters. And again, taking into consideration that there is that existing dwelling in front, When it comes to water levels, definitely the garage would not be his first issue. If the water started to come closer, it would be the dwelling. So 30 meters was appropriate to request for the application.
Okay, thank you, appreciate that.
Member Matthews. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess, Victoria, just to carry on from Member Bocek, obviously you're saying the front yard then is the water side to the house and or garage.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that is correct. So this would be considered that front yard.
Okay, so then is the requirements in this area different than others? Because I thought in most cases it was a 20-meter setback from high water mark, and you're proposing at least 30, but you say the bylaw says 40.
So through you, Mr. Chair, there is a requirement in the bylaw for a 40-meter setback for a detached garage for waterfront properties that I believe, is it just on Georgian Bay, sorry. So on properties just on Georgian Bay, there is that 40-meter requirement, but you are correct, on inland lakes it would be 20.
So it's for the garage. So obviously the house is probably more like 18 or 20 meters away from the high water mark, but it's there and it's okay, right? Yeah, I did visit the site. I did meet briefly with the owner, and I think this will be a net improvement to the property.
Any other questions or comments from the committee? Seeing there are none, I will proceed to read the motion. Be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment approves minor variance application A19-23 for 130 Prisk Road to permit the development of a detached garage with a minimum front yard setback of 30 meters, a minimum separation distance of an accessory building to a dwelling of 1.8 meters, and a maximum lot coverage of 7.9%, subject to the following. Number one, that approval of this variance is granted and fixed to the subject site plan extent, location, scale, and use contemplated in the application. Number two, that a site plan control approval application be submitted and approved, and that a site plan agreement be executed detailing the proposed development, existing vegetation protection areas, and additional plantings in the front yard in the manner prescribed by the applicable policies of the Township of Georgian Bay official plan as they relate to the administration of site plan control. And finally, number three, that approval of this variance expires 3 years from the date of decision if building permits have not been issued for the approved structure. I call the question. All those in favor? And once again, that's a unanimous consent. The application is approved. Okay, we've been at it for, anyone feel like they want a break, or should we just continue on? If everyone's okay, we'll just continue. Okay, our next application is number A19-24 for 818 Haskets Drive, which is 6 Mile Lake. To the planner.
So this application was submitted by Scott and Kristen Rogers for 818 Haskets Drive, which is located in 6 Mile Lake. The proposal is to permit a sauna in the front yard of a property pursuant to the 6 Mile Lake residential zone with a front yard setback of 11 meters, a maximum floor area of 6 square meters, and a maximum height of 3.5 meters. So here we have the location map of the property here along Haskets Drive. So in the official plan, the property is currently designated 6 Mile Lake Waterfront Community and Zone 6 Mile Lake Residential SR6. Here we have an aerial of the property. There is quite a bit of vegetation located within the front yard and along the side yards, buffering to the adjacent lands. There is currently a dwelling, a garage, and a dock on the property. Here's the full extent of the survey of the property. And then we zoom in a little bit here. I apologize that it's kind of blurry, but as you can see, here's the existing dwelling that has been built, the docks, and then the proposed sauna is located here. So 11 meters from the front yard, 6 meters from the side, which is permitted, which does follow the bylaw requirements. And it is to be noted that this sauna is a dry sauna, so there would be no water hookup within the sauna. And here we have some photos. So this is the dwelling from the rear coming up the driveway. This is the front wall of the dwelling that was recently built. So this is the area here where the proposed sauna is located. And again, you can see the adjacent owner to the west in the photo. Here we're looking at the property from the dock. So as you can see, there is very good mature vegetation that does exist. And of course, through the development of this sauna, there is going to be no impact to any existing vegetation. And here you can see this is where the proposed sauna location would be from the dock area. And again, just where this area is. And again, you can see this is more of a prime area. There's no blasting that's going to be required or anything like that. No vegetation to be removed. So it is considered the most appropriate area within the front yard for the sauna. And here we do a photo that was provided by the applicants to show that they did mark out exactly where the sauna is going to go. And again, it is a 6 square meter structure, so it is quite small in comparison to typical maximums for a sauna. So staff are in support of the application and do believe that it does meet the 4 tests of the Planning Act and do recommend approval. The applicant is here if you have any questions for him or myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. Any correspondence relative to this file?
4 letters of support were received.
Thank you very much. The applicant is present. Are there any comments you'd like to make? Sure. Grab a chair. Please state your name for the file and proceed.
Thought I'd give Victoria a break here because she's been working too hard. My name is Scott Rogers, and along with my wife, I am the owner of 818 Haskets. We've been cottagers on 6 Mile for 7 years, and previous to building this, our cottage did have a sauna. My wife is Swedish and has had multiple saunas in her life, and is fundamental of the view of their health benefits. But with that being said, I do realize that we do need a variance here, and we've taken the following steps to make sure that we minimize the impact. I think the first one is the square footage at 64 square feet. When we started the process, we really wanted a change room, but that was going to add to the size. So we asked that this will just be a sauna that you enter in, and so from that perspective, it will be quite small. The second part is, as you can see, it won't disturb any of the vegetation. There's no need to cut down any trees or any bushes. I would point out that as the pictures have shown, I don't know if anyone has taken a boat ride past the cottage, but it's actually very difficult to see. We do believe in keeping the front natural. We have big pine trees, and this will continue. In terms of the other thing that ultimately we would have loved if the sauna was at the shoreline or at the dock, but we realized from the variance perspective that this might be pushing the boundaries, and the fact that we have put it 11 meters back was another consideration that we had. I would point out as well, this will be an A-frame sauna, so the max height at the peak of the middle will be 7.5 feet. I say that because from a volume perspective, this sauna should not, along with the 64 square feet, it will definitely not be a large structure. And then from an aesthetics perspective, we will be purchasing a timber cedar kit that I think will be very aesthetically pleasing to the natural setting. So with that, thank you for the consideration, and if you have any other questions, I'm more than happy to ask.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rogers. Are there anyone else that would like to address this application? I see there are none, therefore I hereby close the public portion of the meeting, and the application will now come forward before the committee. Member Demick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I see that the site has actually got some wood around it now. I couldn't figure out when I went where really it would be. And it's so rocky there that I was glad to hear it's a dry sauna. That's really good. I don't have any problem with this at all. I just was wondering where it was actually going to be and that it was dry. So I'm in support.
Yes, Member Bochuk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know we received one letter of support. Was there any letters of opposition for this?
There were not.
Thank you.
Yes, Member Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I too visited the site and commend you, Mr. Rogers. You have a nice property there and you've done a nice job building, and I'd like some of the natural tiering that the rocks have allowed you to do down by the shoreline. I guess my question, Victoria, is we're asking for this 11-meter setback and the 6 square meters of a building and a height of 3.5 meters. Versus what, though? I mean, what are we varying from? Usually you say, 11 meters where 20 meters is acceptable. Or are saunas just not allowed in the front yard typically?
So through Mr. Chair, that's a great question. So within the zoning bylaw, any property that's zoned shoreline residential or shoreline residential island is not allowed to have a sauna in the front yard except through a minor variance process. So again, this is just a way for the township to have a bit more control over what type of structures are being located in the front yard. When it comes to the specific numbers that have been requested, so in the zoning bylaw, there are more like general guidelines for a front yard setback of 15 meters, whereas they are proposing 11. The maximum floor area in the zoning bylaw is 15 square meters, and they're proposing 6. So this is just us being specific to make sure that what they're proposing, that 6 square meters, is what's going to be built and not a bigger structure. So that was the point of making sure those numbers were specific.
Thank you.
Yes, Member Cooper.
Just following up on the same line of questioning, because I was trying to find the same information. So does the 6 Mile Lake plan reference saunas and saying no saunas are allowed in the front yard?
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Like we saw, for example, recently in the Cog Machine area, where they are very specifically stated not to be in the front yard. So just, could you give me some background on that, please?
Sure. So through Mr. Chair, in our official plan within the 6 Mile Lake Community Plan, there is no reference to saunas specifically in the front yard. Again, just that general shoreline structures within the front yard requirement. So there is nothing specific about not permitting saunas within the front yard.
So just so I understand for 6 Mile for the future, so
Yes.
what, if it's not allowed but allowed, maybe you could explain to me what is allowed in the front yard or is stated to be allowed in the front yard, such as I would assume a dryland boathouse, maybe a pump house, that kind of thing. Could you give me that information, please? Thank you.
Sure. So within 6 Mile Lake, through you, Mr. Chair, within 6 Mile Lake in the front yard, again, it depends on the size and configuration of a lot, whether it be the frontage and lot area that may allow for a dryland boathouse, an in-water boathouse, a dock, sauna, gazebo, etc. Whereas with the sauna specifically, there is just that provision in the zoning bylaw that ensures that it comes in front of the committee for approval. There is no specific restraint against those buildings in the official plan.
Thank you.
Yes, Member Bochuk.
Again, the same as Councillor Cooper, for future, if this had have been a storage shed, we wouldn't be here today. But because it's a sauna, we are here today.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the storage shed would have to meet the 20-meter setback. So it's not considered a shoreline structure, so it's not within that dryland boathouse or pump house or dock type of category. A storage shed would have to meet that front yard setback.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I would just like to comment that done a great job. I'm quite familiar with your property. I did boat by it. The distance from the shore and the size of the structure are quite appropriate. There's virtually no adverse visual impact, and I'm certainly in support of this application. Anything else? I'll read the motion. Be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment approves minor variance application A19-24 for 818 Haskets Drive to permit a sauna in the front yard of a property with a front yard setback of 11 meters, a maximum floor area of 6 square meters, and a maximum height of 3.5 meters, subject to the following. That approval of this variance is granted and fixed to the subject site plan extent, location, scale, and use contemplated in the application. That a revision to the existing site plan agreement on the subject lands be submitted and approved to the satisfaction of the township prior to the issuance of any building permits. And the final, that approval of this variance expires 3 years from the date of decision if building permits have not been issued for the approved structure. Yes.
Sorry,
Member
just a
Cooper.
point of clarification.
Yes.
I wanted to make it very clear that when I commented about another sauna being approved, it was not in front of the Committee of Adjustment, it was actually in front of the council. Thank you.
No problem. If we're done, I will call a question. Oh. Are we all set here? Okay.
Yes, I was just clarifying that a structure of this size doesn't actually require a building permit through the township because it is under that 107 square feet. Keep that in for
Okay, I can
general
adjust that.
purpose, yep.
I'll call a question. All those in favor? And once again, we have unanimous consent. Your application is approved.
Thank you very much. So moved.
Yeah.
I'm still sick. Sign it. Must be a second. Okay, and our final application of the day, for those people who have waited patiently, is number A19-26 for 16 Island 3230 Georgian Bay. Victoria, you should be getting overtime.
So our next application was submitted by Susan Piggott for lands located at 16 Island 3230 Georgian Bay, which is located in Go Home Bay. The request of the application is to permit a 15.6 square meter addition to an existing dwelling within the front yard setback pursuant to the Go Home Bay Shoreline Residential Island Zone, with a minimum front yard setback of 15.8 meters to the northeast corner of the dwelling, where 20 meters is required. So here we have the location of the subject lands within Go Home Bay. As you can see, it is a peninsula type of shaped property. The lands are currently designated residential waterfront within the Go Home Bay coastal waterfront community, and here we have an aerial of the subject lands here. So as you can see, the existing structures include a single detached dwelling, a sleeping cabin, and a boathouse to the northern shore of the property, and some docking systems as well. So here we have the proposed site plan. So as you can see here, because the property is a peninsula shaped property, the 177.4 goes all the way around, which indicates, again, for a peninsula property, that this whole area is considered the front yard. So therefore, any type of expansion to this dwelling would have required a variance, because again, there's no way that they're not going into the front yard unless they were going this way. So here is the proposed addition to the back of the dwelling. And again, it is 15.6 square meters in area, which equates to be 167 square feet. So here you have some photos of the property. This is looking from the top of the dock system towards the existing dwelling that is located there. And again, as you can see, the very steep slope rock area along the shoreline where the dwelling exists. And here we're looking at this is the back wall of the dwelling and the proposed location of the addition. And here we're looking, so the addition would be essentially in this area down to the bottom right of the photograph, looking towards the northern shoreline of the property. As you can see, there is very, very dense mature vegetation that exists, and it's anticipated that the proposed addition would not be visible from any point of the shoreline on the property. Here's the existing boathouse and the north shore of the property. And this is looking back from the boathouse towards the dwelling. As you can see here, the proposed addition would be located in this area, and again, the existing vegetation that does exist. Also, again, to point out here, it's hard to see through the trees, but this whole entire area here is a large rock wall. So again, even along the other parts of the shoreline, you can barely see the dwelling, let alone the proposed addition area. So the application, it is in the opinion of staff that it does meet the 4 tests of a minor variance and do support approval of the application pending the conditions as outlined in the report. The applicants are here if you have any questions for them or myself.
Thank you, Victoria. Any correspondence for this file?
Yes, one letter of support was received from the Cottage Association.
Thank you very much. The applicants are present. Are there any comments you would like to make in addition to those of the planning department?
No, thank you, Chairman. Victoria did a great job.
Thank you very much. Are there any members of the public here who would like to address this application? Seeing there are none, I will close the public portion of the meeting, and the application will be now come before the committee for any thoughts or questions. Member Bochuk.
Not really a question, but a comment that it's evident that the easy route behind this house going down to the boathouse would have been to just clear cut the land and landscape it to get there, but they've gone through the painstaking effort of putting the walkway in. That demonstrates to me that they're not looking at reducing the buffer zone whatsoever, and that this addition is going to be completely hidden from any visual effect. So I will support this application.
Thank you. Just a quick question along those lines. Will there be many trees removed in order to construct the addition?
Mr. Chair, that's a great question. So as you can see here, there is a tree that kind of comes out of the existing foundation area of the dwelling, so that would of course have to be removed. And I believe there is one additional tree potentially to the back, if that at all, that needs to come down?
We think it's only that one tree.
Okay. But otherwise, the area, this is kind of already pretty barren compared to the rest of it.
I take it down. Thank you very much. It's great to see that there's, with the new addition, there's nominal amount of tree cutting or disturbance that will be required. So well done. Member Cooper.
Yeah, I'd just like to echo those comments. It's nice to see something being set back, and there's a lot of vegetation, and it's not overwhelming in any way whatsoever, so that's terrific. Just for clarification, as I was looking at the site map and so forth, it looks to me that this is the southeast or whatever end of Long Island. Is that correct? Is that what I'm looking at here? Is
Yes.
It's part of Long Island?
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't a separate island somewhere along the line there, but I think it's just, it's great. It looks terrific. Thank you.
If there is nothing further, I will read the motion. Be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment approves minor variance application A19-26 for 16 Island 3230 Georgian Bay to permit a 15.6 square meter addition to an existing dwelling within the required front yard setback with a minimum front yard setback of 15.8 meters northeast corner of the dwelling, subject to the following. That approval of this variance is granted and fixed to the subject site plan extent, location, scale, and use contemplated in the application. That a site plan control approval application be submitted and approved, and that a site plan agreement be executed detailing the proposed development existing vegetation protection areas, and additional plantings in the front yard in the manner prescribed by the applicable policies of the Township of Georgian Bay official plan as they relate to the administration of site plan control, and that approval of this variance expires 3 years from the date of decision if building permits have not been issued for the approved structure. I will call the question. All those in favor? And that's again a unanimous approval. Congratulations, folks.
Thank you.
Are you familiar with site plan? Did the township people explain the site plan control agreement?
I'm about to.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
All right. The motion is carried. All right. Just before we move on to other business, I did want to mention that on the agenda for today was application number A19-25 for 1080 Haskett's Drive on 6 Mile Lake, and that application was withdrawn by the applicant, so that's the reason why it was not heard today. Thank you, everyone. Carried, signed. That completes the applications to be heard today. What else do we have to do here? A couple of other. Well, I think they're going to go and do that first, get the bylaw change on their property, and then come. That makes sense. Okay. Next thing, be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment approves the minutes of June 14th, 2019. Those were circulated. Any errors or omissions that came to light? If there are none, then all those in favor? Carried. And our final order of business. Be it resolved, the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment does now adjourn at 10:37. Thank you. Until August 16th, 2019 at 9 a.m. or at the call of the chair. All those in favor? Thank you very much. It's approved. What was this one?
Oh, that was the next one.
Okay. So you need these two?
All those in favor of
Yep.
nominating Mike back as chair?
Peter?
Mr. Efficiency?
Are you leaving?
Wow, the record, I thought you were finished.
Yes, we need some signatures on a few. Thank you.
You have to go? Okay.
I'll get them signed. Thank you, everyone. That went really well today.